Okay, now I discussed briefly what is virtualization. No? Now, taking this on a bigger scale again, no, how we implement now virtualization in the telco space, no, we now have what's called NFV. Now, ang concept ng virtualization is that you have now smaller computers running in one physical machine, on one physical machine. What if, say now, those small computers, instead of having web servers or databases running inside of it as applications, what if, say, I have a VM that is running a fully blown firewall or a 4G gateway, no, instead, no? That implementation, it's now what's called NFV, or Network Functions Virtualization. NFV is a way to virtualize services such as gateways, routers, firewalls, load balancers that have traditionally been run on proprietary hardware. Now, comparing a traditional or proprietary hardware or non-NFV based deployment, normally a network function is tightly coupled to its hardware. In other words, no, if gusto kong mag-deploy ng 4G core sa environment ko, I have to purchase a dedicated 4G gateway from a dedicated provider before I can have it in my network. No? NFV plans to change that in a way that it can now decouple the applications or the software part of your network elements and deploy them as virtual machines. That's one part. And then the other part, instead of using dedicated hardware, you can now use commercial off-the-shelf hardware or COTS hardware. This is where your servers would come in. So notice that for you to have NFV, you need to have that V part, the virtualization part. Okay? Because you'll be relying on virtual machines to deploy now your network services. Okay? Now, NFV promises to improve scalability and agility by allowing service providers to deliver new network services and applications on demand without requiring additional network resources. So, comparing now traditional or an appliance-based deployment versus NFV, you'll notice some key difference here is that number one, unlike in your an appliance-based deployment wherein you have hardware dedicated only to a specific application, in NFV, you can have a centralized means of hardware resources or a centralized pool of resources. Each of them can be shared across different functions, which are now called virtual network functions. So that's one part. And then the other part is you now introduce another component here, which is called management and orchestration, MANO. No? So its role here is to oversee all of the different operations running in your NFV environment. Architecturally wise, no, ito yung pinakita kanina, no? So the NFV technology itself follows a standard architecture and it is developed by ETSI, the European Telecommunication Standards Institute. Okay, so it is the architecture itself is split into three parts. You have your infrastructure. This is where your servers reside. This is where all of the storage nodes, the hypervisor resides. The applications, the virtual machines reside here. They are now called virtual network functions. And the one managing all of the resources that you have is called the MANO, or management automation and network orchestration. Now, in some terminologies, they also just have this as management and orchestration. But either way, it's fine. So, meron kang NFVI, meron kang VNF, meron ka ding MANO. Okay? Now, yung course ninyo itself would, again, deep dive yung mga definitions of these components and how they are being used alongside NFV. Ngayon, I just limit it for now to these three technologies kasi once you start working on with the course, no, you'll now have an intensive view on how does now these three interwork with each other to form a bigger picture or a bigger solution.